Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel and another video. Today's discussion revolves around the ending of Death Note and Light's defeat. The question being, whose mistake cost Light his victory at the end of the series? Mikami, his subordinate, or Light himself? Let's look over both characters and the information they knew and the things they could have done. First, let's start off with Mikami. Was it Mikami that caused Light to lose at the end of the series? After all, it was Mikami who revealed the location of the real Death Note. Was it even necessary for Mikami to retrieve the Death Note under the circumstances he was in? Let's look at the conditions to the circumstances that lead him to believing he had to use the Death Note. Mikami was told by Kira to give several pages of the notebook to Takahata and to create a replica of the Death Note as close in appearance to the original as possible. Once Takahata retrieved the pages, Mikami was to hide the real Death Note and refrain from using it, entering names into the fake notebook and sending pictures of the criminals Mikami intends to kill to Takahata so she kills them. Eventually, Takahata is kidnapped by someone who could potentially be coming after Kira, as Mikami assumed, and Light knowing it was Mello. Takahata being the connection between Light and Mikami. Both Light and Mikami think they need to kill Takahata to prevent any information from spilling out from her. Light has full knowledge on the situation and the dangers that could come with it, but does Mikami have a good enough reason to kill Takahata and retrieve the real Death Note to kill her? After all, Mikami was told not to use the real Death Note until the meeting at the Yellow Box warehouse. Let's look at what Mikami knows of the circumstances. Mikami is aware that Takahata being alive poses a potential danger to Kira by whoever kidnapped her. However, Mikami later finds out that Takahata is alive and has escaped her kidnappers due to killing them, and now Takahata is asking Mikami to send her as many names and faces of criminals to kill while under these conditions. Mikami now really has no reason to kill Takahata. Kira told Mikami to keep the notebook hidden. Mikami now knows Takahata escaped her kidnappers, and now Takahata is asking for names and faces of people to kill, which would be an order from Kira, and by killing Takahata would seemingly go against a couple of Kira's orders, as it should be to Mikami that Kira wants Takahata alive to kill people. Given all this, Mikami has very little reason to believe he needs to kill Takahata or that Kira would even want him to. Mikami is after all completely devoted to Kira, and when given direct orders from Kira, has followed those instructions to a T up until he killed Takahata. But let's entertain the argument that there was undoubtable reasoning that Mikami had to kill Takahata. Mikami had 100% reason to believe that Takahata needed to be killed. He still knew for fact that the reason he was supposed to keep the notebook hidden was because he was being stalked, and was even able to confirm that the fake notebook he had created was tampered with. Why would he knowingly return the Death Note to the same hiding spot, knowing full well he was being watched over and could very easily have the notebook replaced without him knowing, as it was already done before? Mikami knew enough of the Death Note that he should have been able to think of keeping a scrap on himself as well, considering even Takahata thought of this. Mikami, being as cautious as he is, should have also rehidden or held on to the Death Note until the meeting after killing Takahata, which was basically a day away anyways. Putting the notebook back with all the information Mikami is aware of is the worst possible thing he could have done. Just because he believes he needed to kill Takahata and in doing so needs to retrieve the real Death Note, doesn't mean he should completely ignore the fact that he's being stalked and already had the fake notebook tampered with. Now let's look at Light Yagami. Is he to blame for his own loss at the end of the series? Mikami might have been the one to commit the error, but it could have been avoided entirely if Light had created a better plan. Light's plan was to have Mikami send several pages of the Death Note to Takahata and have her kill people while Mikami pretended to write names in a fake Death Note, keeping the real notebook hidden in his bank deposit box. Mikami believed that in Takahata's kidnapping, he had to delete her since Kira wasn't able to. Though Mikami disobeyed his instructions, he believed it was necessary. This being Light's plan, he didn't account for the possibility that he would lose connections with Mikami through Takahata, or that Mikami might be put in a circumstance in which he might have needed to kill someone using the notebook. Light should have been able to account for these circumstances, and if he did, he might tell Mikami to keep his own scrap of the notebook on himself. This being Light's plan and the fact he didn't account for these possibilities, the blame falls on Light in that he failed to consider circumstances and what his subordinates should do given these circumstances if they were to arise. In conclusion, though Mikami should have been able to realize his circumstances and consider better options, it was Light's plan, therefore it was Light's mistake. Light's plan allowed there to be an opening for him to be taken advantage of. That being said, it was Mikami that was the mistake in Light's plan. Mikami had enough to consider taking proper precautions and should have had a level of understanding that Kira might not even want him to kill Takahata. And even if he fully believed it was necessary to kill Takahata, he had enough reason to improvise something after killing her to avoid the notebook being switched. In short, Light's mistake is the plan he created that led to allowing the opening for Mikami to create a mistake. But what do you think? Is Mikami completely at fault, or is Light completely at fault, or does the blame fall a little bit on both of them? Let me know in the comments.